Solve the inequality 3x minus 2 divided by 2x minus 1 is less than or equal to 4 over 3 for x values elements of the real number set where x cannot be equal to a half. So the reason that x cannot be equal to a half is because we'd end up having 2 multiplied by a half, which is 1, and 1 minus 1 is 0, and we cannot divide by 0. So what we're going to do is multiply both sides by 2x minus 1 squared, because in order to avoid the issue of flipping the inequality sign, we need to multiply both sides by a positive. And the reason that we have to do that is because we don't know what x is. And x could end up creating our denominator to be a negative number. And if we ended up multiplying across by a negative number, we would have to flip the sign. So in order to avoid that, we're going to multiply across by 2x minus 1 squared, because anything squared is positive, and therefore we do not need to flip the sign. So on the left hand side of the inequality sign, we have 3x minus 2 divided by 2x minus 1 multiplied by 2x minus 1 squared. And on the right of the inequality sign, we have 4 over 3 multiplied by 2x minus 1 squared. So we're going to break open 2x minus 1 squared to give us 2x minus 1 multiplied by 2x minus 1, and that's all divided by 1. And we're just going to stick together the 4 over 3 and the 2x minus 1 squared. So we get 4 over 3 times 2x minus 1 squared. Now we can cancel out the 2x minus 1 in the denominator and one of the 2x minus 1s in the numerator. Doesn't matter which one. And we're going to have 3x minus 2 multiplied by 2x minus 1. So before we move on to the next step, we're going to multiply across by 3, because that will get rid of the denominator of 3 here. So that's why we're going to have a 3 stuck on to 3x minus 2 multiplied by 2x minus 1. Then we have our less than or equal to symbol, and then if the 3 is gone, we're left with a 4 in front. So we have 4 multiplied by 2x minus 1 multiplied by 2x minus 1, because 2x minus 1 squared is 2x minus 1 multiplied by 2x minus 1. 3x minus 2 multiplied by 2x minus 1 is 6x squared minus 7x plus 2. Remember, you still have a 3 in front. And 2x minus 1 multiplied by 2x minus 1 is 4x squared minus 4x plus 1. Again, remember, you still have a 4 in front. 3 by 6x squared is 18x squared. 3 by minus 7x is minus 21x. 3 by 2 is 6. 4 by 4x squared is 16x squared. 4 by minus 4x is minus 16x. 4 by 1 is 4. So we end up with 18x squared minus 21x plus 6 is less than or equal to 16x squared minus 16x plus 4. Now we need to bring everything over the same side. So the 18x squared stays where it is, the minus 21x stays where it is, and the plus 6 stays where it is. The 16x squared goes over the inequality sign, it becomes minus 16x squared. The minus 16x goes over the inequality sign, becomes plus 16x. The plus 4 goes over the inequality sign, becomes minus 4, and we are left with less than or equal to and 0. Then what we're going to do is simplify. So 18x squared minus 16x squared is 2x squared, minus 21x plus 16x is minus 5x, and 6 minus 4 is 2. And this is less than or equal to 0. Now, we want to solve, so at this point we could factorize and solve, or we could use the quadratic formula or the minus b formula. So I'm going to factorize, so I end up with 2x minus 1 multiplied by x minus 2. So 2x minus 1 is equal to 0, so x is going to be equal to a half. And x minus 2 is equal to 0, so x is going to be equal to 2. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw out my quadratic curve, just a rough sketch. So we have a U-shaped curve, and it crosses the x-axis at a half and 2, because we got x is equal to a half and x is equal to 2. 0 is outside of our roots, so these are our roots and 0 is outside. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take 0 as a test value and I'm going to substitute it into my equation. I don't have to take 0, I could take another value, I could take an x value that's in between my roots if I wanted to. But I'm going to go with 0. So I'm going to substitute 0 into 2x squared minus 5x plus 2 is less than or equal to 0. So swapping this x for 0, I get 2 times 0 squared, which is just 0, which cancels. Then I have minus 5 times 0, which is still 0. So I'm left with 2 is less than or equal to 0. And this is false. 2 is not less than or equal to 0. So, since our test value was outside of our roots, so this is inside our roots, and this section of our graph is outside the roots. So since our test value was outside the roots, and we got our statement to be false when we substituted our test value into our equation, that means that our solution is going to be inside our roots. So our solution set is x values between 1/2 and 2. So it's going to be x is greater than 1/2 but less than or equal to 2. Now if we look back to our question, our symbol was less than or equal to. So you would presume we would have an equals little line attached to each of our inequalities, but we only have on the right of the x and not on the left of the x. And the reason for that is our x value cannot be equal to 1/2. We were told that in the question. Our x value cannot be equal to 1/2. So x has to be greater than 1/2, not greater than or equal to 1/2, greater than 1/2. However, it can be less than or equal to 2. 2 can be included.